Welcome to the Marshall Pruitt Podcast, your weekend IndyCar listener Q&A show. Just home after a bit of a whirlwind couple of days. Flew out to Sebring, bit of a last-minute decision there, but did that nonetheless. Got in there late Sunday, was on the ground. I think alarm went off at 6:45 a.m. Monday, which probably isn't abnormal for most folks getting up to get ready for work. Just tell you that for me it was 3:45 a.m. body clock. And yeah, I don't think I got to bed until about 2. So anyways, a bit of a stupor on Monday. There until about 1 o'clock on Tuesday. And then jetted north 2.5 hour drive back to the airport to Tampa. Got there, was so proud of myself to have made great time. Enough time to take a deep breath before getting on that flight home. Oh, and there was like an hour plus delay. And then we get into Dallas for the connection. And, there's even more of a delay there. So, but normal stuff, not a complaint. Just it's absolutely part of life when your profession is that of being a traveling sports reporter. So, did all that and was hoping to get in at about 10 p.m. I think that ended up being much closer to 11, I don't remember what. Grabbed my wife and drove north to San Francisco, stayed overnight. Had a appointment here early Wednesday-ish. Got home at, I don't know what time, early to mid-afternoon. And so here we are, finally getting a chance to take a breath, digest all the questions you sent in. Our pal Jerry Sudduth, who puts all them together for us, sorts them into 2 or 3 different groups, the ones that he thinks would be most amusing, and then presents them. Says that we have about 1,200 words worth of questions this week and 25 questions overall. So as usual, I'll do my best to get through as many as I can in approximately an hour, that being very different from last week's 2-hour show. So yeah, let's see, what can I get through quickly? We'll talk about Sebring a little bit before I think you have some questions about Sebring as well, but share a couple things about Sebring real quick. Got 1 or 2 items just to add and then close the chapter on Jay Frye's firing and who knows what else. And then, yeah, dive into your questions. As always, want to say a huge thank you to our partners, the Justice Brothers. Pay them a visit, justicebrothers.com, makers of automotive chemicals, lubricants, and just all kinds of great stuff used widely in motor racing, IndyCar, IMSA, you name it. Been a part of my family since I was a toddler. My father and his shop, Pruitt's Old English Garage, we would get weekly deliveries of Justice Brothers products from Bay Area Distributing Company. The owner of that is who I worked for first in motor racing. So fun kind of family, long legacy with the Justice Brothers, being connected with them for so many decades and supporting the show for 6, 7, 8 years now. So yeah, thank you to them. TorontoMotorsports.com as well. Makers of so many great things. Modern racing memorabilia, hats, t-shirts, toques, beer koozies, stickers, models. Love themselves some IndyCar, sports cars, F1, TorontoMotorsports.com. Pay them a visit. Take something home. And then we have our friends, newer friends. Their website is felmotorsports.com, F-E-L motorsports.com. That being the Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. So keen on doing a little bit of racing, a little north of the border. Some amazing road courses in Canada. SCCC, Sports Car Championship Canada. Pay them a visit. Then finally, our own little store here for the older racing memorabilia and a lot of show stickers and other stuff. Trying to get out. That being thepruittstore.com. Really and truly, if you have any interest in any of the stuff there, please take it home. Because, yeah, I am getting overwhelmed by the amount of racing memorabilia. My office, a.k.a. the second bedroom in our little apartment that overlooks our hospital here. Yeah, it's concerning. But anyways, thepruittstore.com. Doing a little revamp of that right now at the moment. So hopefully we'll have some more things up there for you to enjoy. All right. Let's talk about Jay real quick, and then we will dive into Sebring and then your questions. So I wrote a heck of a bunch of words for this week's Racer Mailbag about Jay in response to a heck of a bunch of questions. All of those words did not make it into the final submission here, and for good reason. It was my call. There's a lot. No surprise here, and I know that there's one listener who believes that some sort of grievance or whatever against Roger Penske is driving my words and thoughts here, and whatever. Couldn't be farther from the truth. This is just simply someone who has been an incredibly excellent person at his job and also a good friend, being just dealt dirty, just dirty. And so I would think that would not make anyone happy, seeing someone who you highly respect and also you become friends with get treated in such a poor manner. Had a number of folks ask this, won't go into any serious details, but yeah, of course I've spoken to Jay since all this happened. I don't know, we spent 45 minutes to an hour on the phone the day it happened, and then a day or two after, and then a day or two after, and then a day or two after, and yesterday and the day before, and I'm sure it'll happen next week and a year from now. That's what you do when you have real friends and real relationships. Share just a couple things here that want to make sure they get shared here at least. Didn't feel that they necessarily needed to go into the mailbag because there was so much else. But of the things that I find that we need to at least share, there's another item here that I don't know if this was fully expressed when it happened. I don't believe I said it or wrote it at the time. So this is just maybe another little piece of context to understand why this has not landed in a very favorable way. Had a belief it was going to happen at some point. So not a question of, oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened. Just more a manner of how it happened. Spoke about Jay being on the hot seat for a good while. Him being the opposite of a yes man, not as if he never said yes, just was always going to do what he felt was in the best interest of the paddock and the health of the series. Obviously wasn't always aligned with a person who bought the series. Doesn't mean that Jay's views and beliefs and actions were always correct. Roger Penske's were always wrong. By no means. Just saying that instead of kind of bowing down and saying, okay, whatever you say, boss, this is a guy who stuck to his guns. That didn't end up working out in his favor, as we know. Can say this for sure. We'd heard about this for a while. Thought that it might happen right after the season came to an end. Didn't. Thought it might happen into the off-season a little ways in 2024. It didn't. Okay, maybe early into the new year. Didn't happen. Okay, we're now into February. Nothing. Oh, now it did happen almost the middle of February. On top of mentioning last week the odd timing of things, 2.5 weeks before the start of the season, there's another bit of perspective to add here, and it's this. Jay was allowed to set the entire table for the 2025 season to flip the switch and go. All of the preseason planning and meetings and rules, and we're going to adjust this rule, we're going to change that, we're going to do a tire supply modification instead of 4 sets of Firestone alternates and 6 sets of primaries and road and street courses. We're going to adjust that and give 1 more set of alternates, reduce 1 set of primaries. Hey, this rule here, we're going to modify. Run through everything. Do everything necessary to prepare IndyCar to go green at St. Petersburg. Held drivers' meetings, normal function preseason thing. Run through all the items I just mentioned. Hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Hey, we're thinking about this. What do you guys think? Give us your feedback. Hey, we might change or tweak this. Team owners, team managers meeting as well. That was held February 4th. Same kind of process. Here's some changes. Here's some things. Think about this. Hey, this is going to be the new way that you order fuel. This is going to be the way you do this. Everything you need to set a professional sporting series up to conduct its next season. Held on to the guy until he completed all of that work and then fired him after the guy dedicated, like, legitimately 20%, 22%, whatever it is, of his life. Think about that. 20-ish% of your life dedicated to an organization. And that is how they let you go. You can understand how you might not have the warm fuzzies after that. Another couple of quick things. Still getting the question, understandably so, because it's never answered, of, well, what happened? Why? Mention this in the Racer mailbag if you didn't check that out. Just share that quickly here. So we know that there had been this years-long wedge going between Jay, Mark Miles, Roger Penske. Weren't best friends by any means. But even so, Jay, as I have understood and known, has only ever acted in the best interest of the owners in the series. I believe, I can't tell you if it was the exact final straw, but I might be. Been this ongoing debate as to what the next car should be. Should it be an all-new car? We'd love that. Love every thought of that. But that also comes with maximum costs, right? Maximum expenditures by the teams. Jay's been a proponent of, well, how about halfway? Let's do a new tub, the safety cell where the driver sits, and some other new things. But let's try and carry over as much of the current car as possible. Do we need brand new suspension? Not necessarily. Cool. Let's carry that over. That's something they won't have to buy. Let's think about as many other things we can carry over. Meet you halfway, if you want to call it that, on the budget side. And be sure that, to the best of your ability, you make sure that this brand new car is going to indeed be brand new in the areas where it needs to be, but make use of the existing components that are running today to bring costs down wherever possible. Jay had been proposing this over and over and over. Unlike years before, Jay's no longer in charge of making single-handed decisions on anything, but new car stuff. Penske Entertainment has inserted Mark Miles and someone from Penske Automotive Group to steer this, oversee this, be the quarterbacks. Jay was the third member of that team, but it should be very clear that indeed he was not the guy making the calls on anything. He was part of a 3-person collective that was created. Other two, as I'm told, kept proposing brand new. Jay, knowing the finances of the paddock, just as I do, about half of them would have no way of paying for 100% brand new cars. About half the paddock is on the financial rev limiter, like stretched as thin as possible. The idea of doing something that has maximum costs involved, that would be a troublesome, worrisome thing. That would be a reason for IndyCar's now former president to push back routinely, going, hey, of course we'd love to do all new. And the two guys who have no experience ever doing this before, it's awesome that they want to do all brand new, but I'm telling you, we can't. That message was conveyed multiple times to top of the organizational chart. Aware that an email, so we're going back a week and a half now, an email sent the week prior to Jay's firing was sent, basically a final salvo. Please do not do the new car. Here's the proposed halfway, half new, half old, budget-minded approach. And a definite concern that that was either going to be well received and acted upon, or received in a extremely negative manner. So I can't tell you if that's the reason, the final straw that broke all this down and led us to this, what felt like last minute impromptu change of IndyCar presidency. But I don't feel like I'm too far off base if this ends up being what it was. Last quick note here. Actually, I got two other super quick notes. There was the ongoing items mentioned by Mark Miles about single-digit growth with Jay, and they're hoping that with Doug Bowles in place, things are going to be even better, and so on and so forth. I'll just reiterate this point. They, being Penske Entertainment, continually took power and authority and decision-making away from Jay. And so someone who used to go out and sign sponsorship deals and get centrally involved in all aspects of running the series was effectively walled off into, just basically run the series, be the head of operations, but that's about it. And in what was shared by Mark in the comments denigrating Jay, and as a result trying to big up Doug, it just struck me that this was a lot like Penske Entertainment taking the football out of the quarterback's hands and then having the stones to try and blame him for failing to throw touchdowns. You strip somebody of effectively any and all real power or decision-making or creativity possibilities and then try and blame the guy for growth not being what you'd hope it would be, when indeed Penske Entertainment took all the power in all the meaningful areas to affect the series growth. But then you want to try and hang something like that after taking the ball out of the quarterback's hands? That one just really blew me away. To close here on Jay, I'm excited for his future. And I will leave it at that. All right, let's get into your questions here. Sebring, certainly one where there's some fun stuff to talk about. Also, my favorite moment from Sebring, that would be Tuesday morning. I had a good long chat the previous day with Colton Herta, and love that kid. There's a anarchist that lives firmly inside of that child. And I was filming trackside, and I guess he had blown off that lap and decided he was going to pit at the end of the lap. And so, knowing that he wasn't having to charge through the corner complex I was there filming at, he, I guess knowing I was there, came through, and I wasn't filming him. I'd already gotten plenty of passes from him, so I didn't need anything more. And I'm so mad because he came around somewhat slowly, and I see this right hand extend from the top of the arrow screen with a single middle digit extended. And so I got the world's best bird flipped at me by Colton. And damn it, I was not filming. I saw him on pit lane at the end of the session. I was just laughing, and he was laughing as well. I'm like, that is the best dang bird I've ever had flipped at me from a race car before. And I said, my only problem is you got to give me some warning, man. So I know to film. So if I'm lucky, I will catch the kid flipping me off somewhere here in the very near future. Another fun thing from Sebring as well. Hope to get some finer answers from our friends at Chevrolet about this. A number of their drivers sat in their cars, had them fired up, ready to leave pit lane, and huge billowing wall of white smoke out of the right exhaust. Not the left, but the right. And it wasn't every Chevrolet-powered car as well. Really interesting. We could even see within a multi-car team, frankly, they're all multi-car teams, so that's a dumb thing to say, but we could see Team Penske, for example, would watch Will Power's car get fired up, and usually a big, serious plume of smoke come out, and then right down 2-3 pit stalls, Joseph Newgarden's get fired up. Absolutely nothing. Don't know why there was the disparity. think it's just a case of oil draining down into the turbo and getting lit up and burned. But anyways, interesting thing. Wasn't something I'd noticed last year. Don't know what's changed, but hoping to find out. So all that stuff aside, let's dive into your questions here and get the show in and move on with the rest of our lives. Our pal Jim Kaiser used to put the show together for me. The very first person between himself, Tim Falkowitz, and now our good guy, Jerry Sudduth. Jim came known to the show for sending in haiku. So we're going to open the show with Jim and a bit of that. He says, let's bring in 2025 with a haiku. The doldrums are gone. The driver lineup is set. It's go time, baby. There you go. Thank you, Jim. Cracking your Q&A open with one sent in by Matt B., Yash Kotak, Cody Douglas, and I saw some others as well. Wanting to know about Conor Daly. Matt says, best to you and your bride and the cats. Thank you, Matt. You got everyone covered here. As it came out here that some stakeholders at Polka Dot blocked Conor Daly from getting his $3.5 million sponsorship. Does this change his full season status with Juncos Hollinger Racing? Couple of quick things I can share on this. I don't pretend to know everything by any means, but am aware that Conor was signed for a full season. Not a partial, not a just, hey, you're our full season guy. This $3.5 million that's come out is no longer part of his package. I think that had to be an assumed part of what he would be able to bring. If that's been blocked and hasn't been delivered, well, that seems like the kind of thing, if it was truly a showstopper, where he doesn't get in the car Monday at Sebring or Tuesday. Very quick, both days. Very impressive both days. The team as a whole, very impressive both days. This is the kind of thing that has happened preseason countless times in motor racing. Hey, new driver, new sponsors attached to that driver, and the money didn't show. All right, well, you're out, and we're going to put in somebody else. Couple drivers, not saying a bunch, but there are indeed a couple of drivers with some money to spend. That's an important thing to know is Conor safe? Is he going to be in for the full season or not? I don't know if he's going to stay in for the full season. I hope so. I'll tell you why in just a sec. But would say I'm looking at the reaction here to this Polka Dot decision and one stakeholder deciding to say no, and that becoming public in that public call, and this becoming something that was known. This didn't happen just yesterday. I mean, granted, this didn't happen a super long time ago, but this has been known and was known coming into this test at Sebring. It would have been a bit of a last-minute dash, but there are some drivers with some funding who could have put that in Juncos Hollinger Racing's hands to get into that car for the test and for the early races of the season while they tried to figure out what their next steps might be. Typical move, and we've seen that done in the past. Didn't happen here. That's why I am encouraged. So knowing that Conor was signed for the full season to be team leader and teammate to Stingray Robb, would say that the team's decision to put him in the car at the test super well. Stingray did very well. I would say that is something that should calm those like myself and maybe some others, at least in the short term. Keep in mind, Stingray is on his third team in 3 years. Did not have a great rookie season. A lot of things went wrong, not necessarily of his making, some of them of his. Last year with Foyt went better, but was still definite some shortcomings there. Didn't have a ton of options here in 2025, but where he did have an opportunity was with Juncos Hollinger Racing. Why? Well, they've had some real struggles financially the last year or two. Came back late in 2021. The Juncos racing team became Juncos Hollinger Racing with the good man who is Brad Hollinger, healthcare system owner, very wealthy, lover of racing, investor and such, invested in the team, rebranded, off we go. The rumored investment was $30 million. Keep in mind, investment's very different from gift. So make an investment, you expect some sort of return within a reasonable amount of time. Part of the investment meant to be the team doing just that, returning on that investment to the investor, but also, hey, this is going to help kickstart things, get us going, give us some operating budget to get up and going, but team, you need to go and find sponsors to pay for all this, because this sizable investment will last a couple years to keep the cars on track and things going, but wheels are going to fall off if y'all don't go and find sponsors to pay for this. Didn't really have that happen the last 2 years. Callum Ilott, Augustine Canapino, then our guy Romain Grosjean and Canapino both paid drivers. And Romain, for sure, definitely someone commanding a decent 7-figure salary. A lot of that came out of the investor's pocket. And at least as I heard multiple times last year and continue to hear this year, he's no longer willing to be Santa Claus, just handing out money because a team can't get their business development side together. Understand, I think about a month ago, the person who had been trying to find money for them, find sponsors over the last year, was let go. Nonetheless, both cars showed up at Sebring with JHR on the side pods, which is something we have seen an awful lot of the last couple of years. It was really disappointing to see. Here we are yet again, new season, and the team's initials are being presented as the primary sponsor. So just to wrap this up, since no change was made at this test, and we definitely saw a lot of speed and potential from Conor, I take that as a very good sign in terms of him staying in the car. Is that full season 17 races? Is that half? I don't know. We can assume for sure that the team was expecting to receive a $3.5 million for most teams these days is a third, 40-ish% maybe of an annual budget, but yeah, 30 to 40%, somewhere in there. That's not a small percentage. So if that is needed, I would say that knowing Conor's ability to meet folks, sign sponsors, bring them in, give him some time, because I'm very confident he'll be able to make up most of that, if not more. Making a change right now, though, certainly is going to end that possibility. So there are a few folks with a little bit of money walking around, as I mentioned. None of them been put in the car. I'm thinking that could be a possibility if the team does decide, gets to a point, hey, we need some money for this car that we currently don't have to run it. Also, say on the Stingray side to close, which I mentioned would get to, he's rumored to be bringing the same kind of thing that he did to Foyt, $8-9 million a year. That's a heck of a bunch of money. Well, it wasn't just because he'd get to continue his IndyCar career. It's also because would have a really good pro, really good veteran, oval expert, road and street course ace in Conor Daly as team leader, teammate, mentor, coach, all of those things. Separate from any financial issues Conor might be facing with delivering whatever amount of money he was supposed to, let's think big picture here with Stingray, who's signing up. He's a humble kid, hungry kid, wants to learn, is a sponge, does improve when he's shown how to do things in a new, better, faster way. Having Conor there, who ticks all of those boxes and his ability to do that, and thrusting Stingray's teammate situation into a revolving door of whomever can pay for X amount of races and then someone else. Not exactly like Dale Coyne's situation last year. There's a new rule put in, obviously, saying no more than 3 drivers per entry per year, but just also thinking of this from Stingray's side and his sponsor and funding group side of like, hey, we didn't show up here to do this, and have random people coming through the sister car where we may or may not be getting any value out of them as a teammate. So if I'm looking through those lenses, I'm saying that's the reason why Conor was testing. I gotta believe he's going to be in the car early year at least. If he's not in the car through at least the Indy 500, that'd be one of the dumber decisions ever made. But if he has to go find that replacement sum, 3.5 or whatever it is, give the guy time, he'll be able to do it. So if he's not in the car at St. Pete, Thermal, Long Beach, Barber, etc., Indy, I'll be shocked. And yeah, this could spell bigger problems for the team. Jameen Tuttle says, MP, we all know testing times don't really mean anything. Prema, Meyer-Shank, Juncos all surprised me a little with how competitive they were, and Abel seemed to run well. Any surprises for you? The Prema side for sure, but then also not really. Ultimately, we had the Penske's that were fastest. We had the Ganassi drivers who collectively, granted, there's only 3, and Scott Dixon had nothing but problems throughout the test, but thought Pelot might be a little bit quicker. But the one thing teams know, and this is just, it's a truism that's been around for a long time, Jameen, it's that if you're placing faith in anybody's lap times at Sebring, you are a silly person. The track grip and performance changes so drastically throughout the day, every day, that what you did on Monday, based on the ambient and this and that and the other, you will have extremely different results the next day if you go from being hot but slightly overcast on Monday to hot but blue skies the next, in ways that are very different from dang near anywhere else we go. So whether it's humidity changes, whether it's rubber down changes, it rains a lot there, right? And you might get that rubber washed away, even though the ambient, even if the conditions are almost identical from day to day, just when you have grip and what kind of lap times it produces, it is such a known variable there that none of the teams truly look at, hey, we were P1. All right, great season ahead. It's, hey, at that time and that day, you were in really good shape. Also, you have questions, 2 areas. What tires were they on and when? And were they using push to pass? Some manufacturers do not like or really allow their teams to use push to pass on days like this. Others do. You have the happy hour running, which is where the fastest times are pretty much always produced. End of the day, last 15, 20 minutes of the session, sun's going down, still have amazing grip, but it's a little bit cooler. Folks save and chuck on a set of new tires or the newest ones they have, do their qualifying sims. Just sharing all this because I'd love to say, hey, this team stood out as amazing and this one didn't. But Monday, for example, I think we ran to 6:05 or something because of some delays in the morning. Callum Ilott was fastest with like 15 minutes to go. Might have been 20, but Callum was fastest. I'm like, hey, that's awesome. Well, he was among the first to go out and do his cooler temperature, newer tire, optimal settings, qualifying sim. And by the time we were done, Power was P1, this person was P1, that person was P1, Colton. I think Power might have gotten it back, someone else. I don't remember whether Callum was 5th or 6th, but just in almost no time, Callum went from being P1 to about the midpoint of the field, simply because others went out a little bit later, a little bit more optimal, and put in their time. So this is a thing where with the field split in half, and yeah, not everybody in those halves are awesome. Well, it kind of leaves those who are awesome to do the more impressive laps. So that's why you just can't take a great read. With Felix Rosenqvist being sick and out on Monday, but coming back, charging like mad on Tuesday. It was good to see that. Saw Frye in the hotel lobby Monday morning, and he looked and sounded like hell. He was kind enough to hold the door open for me, so I was hauling out a ton of gear. But yeah, he said, I'm going to go to medical. I don't think I'm going to be in the car. And he wasn't. Marcus Armstrong did a great job. That might be separate from teams, Jameen. Marcus really seemed to be locked in a really good place. So seeing him quick 2 times out of the 4 sessions, that I thought that was a nice little, I guess, standout moment for him to let folks know that he's ready to go. But other than that, I mean, I mentioned Prema. It's a really good team. It's got a lot of veterans. I'm like, oh, hey, he's been Dixon's tire guy for years. And, he's over there now. Okay. And this person's over here. Callum has his race engineer from Hunkos Hollinger. So that, while it's a new team, that isn't a new combo and their knowledge isn't new. So, yeah, I think things are going to play out somewhat as expected. That's maybe a bigger part for next week's show of expectations for the new season. Didn't see anything that alarmed me in a positive or negative way at Sebring, though, Jameen. So can't wait to get to free practice 1 at St. Petersburg and find out whether there were any hints at Sebring that I just missed. AJ Digby says, which track on the schedule does Sebring most closely represent? Well, there's no specific singular track, AJ, but what it does ape better than any other track is street courses. And since you can't test on street courses, the bumpiness of Sebring, the constantly changing track surface at Sebring, right? Where you go from this type of pavement to that type, and newer here, older there, bumpier here, anything but smooth and consistent pavement throughout the entire short course lap. That is what best replicates the roads, the daily used roads at the variety of street courses we hit, with everything that you find there. Second question here, you said, bonus, lots of liveries, interesting liveries on display. Which popped the most to you? 2 of them, very easy. That being Will Power and his new Target Chip Ganassi red and yellow. It's not exactly red. I couldn't get the name of what it is. I'm going to try and find out, but it's slightly less than red, just mildly lesser shade, but it looks phenomenal. But the cars that I was drooling over, it was like, wow, more than any others. That is Ed Carpenter Racing. Yeah. Love the blue-ish. Is it blue? I think I got to find out the exact names of all the colors, but, yeah, those, I would buy models of those because I just think they look awesome. And Ed Carpenter Racing, a little bit of a sleeper in that regard. I don't know if ECR has gotten the full credit they deserve for coming up with a range of really interesting and strong liveries throughout the years. Haven't all been gems, of course, but just thinking of some choices of colors, green or all black or whatever else, where they've got some pretty strong design genes there, and really love what they've done here because it's so radically different from anything I've ever seen them do. Doesn't look like any other IndyCar I've seen, and I don't know how long. So yeah, P1 there in that list for sure. Steve Hooper, Marshall, who do you think gets a bigger bump this year? Is it the Ed Carpenter Racing team with Rossi bringing his skill and experience to help them? Or is it Christian Lundgaard now that he has a top-level team behind his undeniable talent? I would say between picking the ECR team with Rossi and the driver known as Lundgaard, I'm going to go with Christian. Rossi is bringing great things to the team, making them better. It's going to take a while, though. This is a team that has done very well for a long time, but has often come up short of excellence. That doesn't get fixed with a single driver overnight. This is a cultural thing that has to change as well. Expectations, how you do your job. This is just a nose to tail overhaul. Big investor there, which is great. Ted Gelov. Great sponsors, great everything happening here. This is one, though, that has a longer soak time for it to net the results that we're looking for. Lundgaard, that guy, I'm telling you, that guy is so good. Beating Pato, beating Palou, Newgarden, good on a routine basis. I don't know about that yet. I'm not willing to go that far because we haven't seen it. But do I think the potential for him to be thereabouts? That absolutely exists, and I think we're going to see that right away. Just a quick little observation here. Because I'm an idiot, was struggling to remember exactly who was in 2 of the 3 Arrow McLaren cars. So I knew that Nolan was in the car with the blue from NTT data. But in my head, at least to start the test Monday morning, I guess I'd yet to fully process that with my little monkey brain. So I initially, momentarily, for a couple of laps, was blown away by Nolan's aggressiveness into the braking zone. I believe it's full course turn 7, or is it 5? I think 5, maybe. At Sebring, the one at the end of the long straight right next to the Chateau Alon Hotel where they go under that Sebring bridge, whatever that number is, was filming on driver's left down a little bit past the corner, having them come into view and turn in front of me and power away. And the Arrow McLaren car with the McLaren Papaya orange and the white on it, for whatever reason, despite knowing what was what, I had it in my head that it was Nolan. And I am telling you, Steve, I was like, oh my God, this kid, I don't know what he's done in the off season, but wow, because he'd come firing into the brake zone, maybe a little bit deeper than anybody. It's a corner with super bumps on the way in. The car is bouncing and it's anything but stable. And so it's super easy to lock the brakes, blow through the corner and start over, get a new lap going because you just blew it here. I'm watching Nolan blast into the corner, super deep, chuck the thing at the apex really hard, right? Not at like a progressive turn towards the apex, but like, bam! And is holding on to the car and little tiny micro counter steering to catch the slide. And like, I'm just going, wow! Nolan, yeah! And then about 2 or 3 laps later, after I'm filming this and just marveling, I'm like, oh, it's Christian Lundgaard. You freaking moron. And I'm not saying Nolan didn't do impressive things. He did. Actually, it was really awesome to see. I mean, he's definitely more in the groove than he was last year. I mean, he didn't even do a full season. So he's kind of starting, half rookie, maybe we could call it this year. But anyways, just share all this because I did not see anyone more aggressive coming into that really awesome, super bumpy car all over the place. You might be rewarded from actually being slightly less aggressive approach, and Lundgaard going, hell no, I am attacking this like you wouldn't believe, holding on to the thing, getting it turned, romping back on the throttle, tearing out of there lap after lap. And I'm like, wow, this guy is fully embracing the car that he has that is better than anything he's ever driven. And he is attacking this track right off the bat. First session. Love what I'm seeing. So, yeah, Christian, I think, is going to be the one that we're going to be looking back at across the entirety of the season going, wow, that was a big year for him. Think we're going to be saying similar-ish things for ECR and Rossi. But I'm more excited about coming back this exact time next year where they're at. That's where I think we're going to see the biggest benefit. Jeremiah Morrill says blank sod pods on the number 4 car, that being David Malukas' AJ Foyt Racing entry. Considering Little Dave is a paid driver now, the side pod treatment for Bryant on the 28 car, driven by Marcus Ericsson, is a big step up over previous years. Are they actually that involved in motorsports marketing? Okay, so I am aware that the Foyt team does indeed have some sponsor stuff coming for the 4 car, so I'll look forward to writing that whenever the time is right to write that. I think we had another question in here somewhere, and I'll maybe try and consolidate this. I apologize to whomever sent this in as well. Just roll this into Jeremiah's question about the 28 car here with Marcus Ericsson and Bryant. I think there's a question about Chili's as well. The sponsor on our guy Kurt Kirkwood's number 27 Andretti Global Honda. Wanting to know more about that. Are those big sponsors that are in doing a lot? I feel like I might have mentioned this in the podcast, or maybe, I don't know, my Andretti season preview, but I can only get from the team collectively that those are sponsors we will see at St. Petersburg. I love that they're there, especially Chili's being new to IndyCar. I'm told that Chili's comes in via Andretti Global's ownership of the Spire Motorsports NASCAR team, with Chile, I'm told, being part of their racing program. You can tell that if Chili's has already been there, I just haven't known about it because I don't really follow on that side, but I could only get that those are the sponsors that'll be on those 2 cars for St. Petersburg. Hope that they'll be there for more. Hope that they're paying real money and that they're not just like inexpensive deals done so it doesn't look like or include having TWG Global businesses and companies that they own, like Delaware Life or similar, paying all the bills. So I don't know if it's like a real thing, or if it's just a, hey, we're able to do these deals and they don't actually pay us much, but it makes us look like we have real sponsors. It feels like that's that. The team, I kept asking and asking and asking. They refused to give any answers. When you do that, how's this? If the answer was, yeah, they're a big deal and they're going to be here for the full year, well, that's what you say. What you don't do is do your best to say nothing and be impossible to get a hold of or get an answer out of, and then give your drivers pre-written statements to speak if you are asked that question. But nonetheless, glad to see them. Hope that they're here for a long time and they're paying them a ton of money. At least at the moment, the team is doing nothing to give me that indication. Hope to be proven wrong. Luke Entrup. Marshall, what happened to the 100 Days to Indy reality show? So bummed to hear it was canceled. I enjoy racing, but my family enjoys the drivers. This was the one IndyCar show my kids would sit through. Why can't we have nice things? Luke, I'm with you. Well, we had this thing where IndyCar had this multi-year deal, good deal with NBC, and NBC wasn't interested in doing anything like this. And after trying for quite a while to find someone to do this with, the CW and Vice TV said yes. And NBC was perfectly fine with that. Would say that in the consolidation of the relationship with their new broadcast partner, Fox, my call, if I were Fox, heck, my call, even if I was IndyCar, would be, okay, so we divorced the big former broadcaster. Do we hold on to ties to the smaller, lesser broadcaster that we did? No, let's go all in with Fox. And let's see if and what else we can develop differently. So would say new relationship here. You need to honor that and be committed to that. That stands out here. And also 100 Days was good. did absolutely nothing for the series on the CW. I think CW is presented as the 5th largest network in the country. Did nothing, generated, paltry numbers when they aired live. Where there was help, though, and this is the part that's important, is when season 1, season 2 got chucked up onto Netflix. That did some pretty positive things. So for me, what I'm hoping to hear is, hey, I don't know if I love the 100 Days to Indy format. I thought that was pretty whack, to be honest. If you're going to do it properly, do a full season. But whatever it is, it's clearly known within Penske Entertainment. Would assume conversations between Penske and Fox. Hey, we got to come up with something, even if it isn't a Fox thing, even if Fox isn't involved. Any issues if we try and find a relationship with a dedicated streamer that might do this, right? Is it a Netflix? Is it a Hulu? Is it a whomever? But we need some form of streaming product. What can we do? That seems like a great new thing to engage with Fox. So I gotta believe those conversations have been happening, will lead somewhere. But yeah, CW, 100 Days, that sucker's dead, as I'm told. Ken Anderson, how you doing, Ken? Says, welcome to the time of nail biting and hoping. It's been an off season that's given us plenty to be optimistic about. However, why do I feel a sense of trepidation for when the TV numbers are announced following St. Pete? This is after this huge push by Fox. If those numbers are suboptimal, is it hello Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2? Would Fox be okay for 1.5 million viewers at St. Pete? Great question, Ken. I don't have all these questions tucked into a story, but I do have this general premise in a story that I need to get cranking on. If they come out of St. Pete with 1.5 million, I gotta believe folks are going to be doing super happy dances. We were pretty happy if that number was 1.0 million on NBC. Obviously, there were some races, excluding the Indy 500, which is a much bigger one, but this last season flirting around 1.1, 0.8, 0.9, 900,000, whatever, 1 million, 1.1. That's where things tended to fall. We're up 1.5. I think folks are super happy and got to believe that number would only increase as more awareness of IndyCar being on Fox would happen in the coming weeks and months. So 1.5 million people watching an IndyCar race. I can't recall the last time that happened for something outside of the Indy 500. And there might be an outlier that I'm forgetting, but if it's happened in recent years, it's happened once, maybe twice, but not something for sure that would be a routine expectation. So love that. Absolutely. Why don't we go to, let's see, you got more stuff here. You also say, in a world of rainbows and unicorns, farting glitter, I'm expecting nothing other than high ratings, pack stands, new track records, Honda staying a third OEM, someone other than Penske or Ganassi dominating, etc. Unfortunately, I don't quite see all that coming to fruition. Love to hear your honest opinion of the, quote, state of IndyCar. Says, looking forward to saying hi at Thermal, and love to you and Chabrel and the kiddies. Well, thank you, Ken. Okay. Jay Frye stuff aside, that's done. Doug Bowles is in place. Very positive feelings about that in general. So folks have understood within the paddock whether they believe Doug is the right move or not, whether they think he has the chops to do everything or not. There's a collective belief, this is from me talking to a lot of people about this in the paddock, that, hey, it's done is done. We're going to get behind Doug and Penske Entertainment, and let's go upwards. There's huge optimism for the Fox side. That's going to be a serious difference maker bigger audience, potentially more income as a result of that. You're selling a product, you can offer more eyeballs on that on average. You can ask for more money, hopefully receive more money. Things that I hear from team owners and drivers and whatnot that they're high on, it's some of the future stuff related to, hey, we're going to Arlington, some of the other tracks that are being mentioned that we could be going to, could we be going to Mexico, hopefully, Denver, street race, etc. Like, there is a real and true high level of optimism for what's coming. There's also, and this is the inside baseball part, and if you just want to hear that things are awesome and shiny and on the surface and optimism is high, then this is something to fast forward through. But I'm not here to just do that blowing of unicorn rainbow fart glitter. There's some very serious concerns. Honda, as I've said before, very concerned about them being dang near out the door. Costs to compete are almost beyond the limit of about half the teams. That's a real thing today, not in the future, but now. The new car, what it's going to be, how much it's going to cost, etc. These are some of the real concerns. Give you an honest picture, though. Honest. These are not new things. Hey, costs are creeping really high, and we might be losing one of the two auto manufacturers. We don't know if there's another one to replace them, and budgets, oh my goodness, right? New car, what's that going to cost? These are all known things. None of them are showstoppers this instant. And so the honest state that I can offer, while these fears are held by many and known by all, hey, new season, Fox is freaking awesome. The drivers we have, the teams we have are freaking awesome. Let's go put on some great motor racing. Let's be positive. Let's try and infuse that excitement within our fan base and make more fans and grow. That's the vibe. Some of that is pretending that the monster that's knocking on the door isn't real. We know that there's some real monsters on the other side of that door. But rather than fully embrace all of that and be gripped in fear, the general state that I see is one where folks are wanting to ignore the knocking on the door. It's okay. We believe things are going to be better, and we're going to close our eyes and place all of our faith in that. And let's use our faith and belief to hopefully get to a place where all those things that are knocking on the door that are scary can be improved and resolved and made to go away. Last couple of things here, and I realize I'm a little bit over on the 1 hour promise, but that's okay. I always fail on that. Erica Rosa, you say, Marshall, any word yet on pit reporters from Fox? Sent them a note today and asked two questions, actually. Got an answer on the first, didn't get a response, an answer to the second one, this being the second item that I asked about. Heard from one friend who's feeling far more encouraged about being on pit lane. That made me really happy to hear. Asked to keep any details to myself, so I am. Would say that here on February 19th, knowing that we are on track on February 28th, a little concerned that maybe all this hasn't been buttoned up, but that's okay. But no, don't have an answer yet on the who's, but I'm going to share it with you as soon as I learn. Gibson Munsell, Marshall, as much as I've been impressed with Fox's promoting IndyCar, I feel like the Ryder Cup-esque feel of the series should not be overlooked. I think they're sleeping on a USA versus the rest of the world aspect, which, in my opinion, doesn't get enough attention. Yeah, this was done a lot back, particularly in the kart/champ car days, where there was a Nations Cup, and there was points awarded for drivers and race winners of the different nationalities, and you actually would have Brazil win or whatever win, and that was a thing. I'd just say that in today's climate here in the country, I don't know if I would want to stoke an us versus them thing in sport that's meant to be kind of fun. I realize Ryder Cup, it's been a thing for a long time, and whatever, but just saying here, since we really do have a pretty darn international thing going, and international relations might be a little bit stressed in some ways right now, just saying, I don't know if I would want that to creep over in any way to something that I would hope would just be something we can celebrate in every capacity. Less of a us versus them on the driver's side, and more of a awesome team versus awesome team and driver thing. So I hear you. Just wonder if we need to make that a thing in IndyCar right now. Lance Snyder, say, with Jay's departure continuing to set a tone of don't go against us, why would any other manufacturer enter the IndyCar fray when a much more open formula is available to them, like in IMSA? Seems like sanctioning bodies with non-authoritarian leadership are doing pretty darn well. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. The IMSA side, obviously, they're kicking butt. They got all kinds of manufacturers signing up. Formula One, indeed, has had a lot more manufacturers sign up, but the head of the FIA there seems to be going a little more authoritarian than anybody wants. So we'll see how that pans out. But I spent an hour, well, I think it was 53 minutes, but just call it an hour. Spent an hour Tuesday morning, so I guess that's yesterday for me at least, but Tuesday morning, having coffee with Honda Racing Corporation President David Salters. And so had coffee in the transporter, and it's mighty fine coffee, by the way. Got to thank Davey for that. And interview probably lasted 20 to 25 minutes of that. But I can tell you that for the on-the-record interview stuff, a lot of it being about preparing for the new season and trying to do better, obviously. They won the championship with Palou as a driver, didn't win the manufacturer's title. Obviously, the Indy 500 Chevy mollywopped Honda. That was a lot of what we spoke about. Also spoke about other topic as well, but I'll tell you one thing that came through from Davey. It's not as if I didn't know it, but he really drove home this point over and over again, is the love and passion for the Indy 500. And why would other manufacturers enter IndyCar? For all the reasons you mentioned. I hear you. Would just say that for manufacturers who have been around for a while, know the allure of the Indy 500, what it means, how big it is, and want to be a part of that cultural touchstone. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds good. It's incredibly unique. Something to pursue. If you want to be in NASCAR, you can be in NASCAR. It's going to cost a crazy amount of money more than doing IndyCar. Go to IMSA. It's probably not going to be too different from what you'd spend in any car. Those cars look like cars, though. The GTP cars, even though they're spacey and futuristic, they are at least in the theme of a car, road car, that manufacturers sell. Fantasy-based. Looking, though, awesome. IndyCar, Formula One for that matter, it's a bit of a leap, right? Yeah, the engine's in there, and the badge, the stickers placed on the car to tell you that that's what it is, but it's a leap of faith to connect manufacturer to this open wheel car that looks nothing like what they sell. Well, Formula One, very different thing, right? Biggest going series in racing, so everyone wants to be there. I get that attraction. Just a little bit harder to make that sell in IndyCar because, again, you got NASCAR, you got IMSA, you could go all the way to Formula One if you wanted. There's still that Indy 500 thing. So for the manufacturers who know what it means and want to be a part of that, knowing it's a little bit different than any other series. Definitely costs a tiny fraction of what F1 would be and much less than NASCAR. That's the sweet spot. So forgetting the authoritarian side and all that, there's still a reason to be there. And it was just awesome to hear from Davey over and over again how much the Indy 500 means to him and means to Honda. Caleb Bensey. Would one of the biggest enticers for Honda to stay be a third manufacturer to come in? Says they want better value, and I don't think anything would improve that more than getting a third manufacturer. Yes. I apologize, Caleb, for not knowing when you started following IndyCar. I just share that I feel like I wrote the Chevy and Honda will do almost anything they're asked to do by the series or a new third manufacturer to help get them into the series, to therefore help them reduce costs and return on investment. I feel like 2014, 2015 at the latest is when I might have written that first one, and others would have written that too. So just sharing that, oh yes, you are spot on, and this is something that both brands have been aching for and saying publicly, hey, we can help you in some way that doesn't destabilize our competitive efforts. If that's the thing that gets you here, we're in. Just tell us what we can do. So yeah, without a doubt. ESF1 says, how will Will Power's future with Penske look with Fernando Alonso and Oriol Servia backing him? Really, really, really good. This is a team that knows Will very well and knows Oriol very well, having driven for them, and would say that as long as Will drives like he did at the test and did last year and the year before and you name it, if he has a good year, I can't see why they would not want to have him back. As long as he's delivering at a high level, I got to believe he's going to be signed to an extension. David Malukas is signed to Penske. Like, that's the thing to be clear, right? He's driving for Foyt, but he is signed to Penske. So there is an intent for that kid to drive for them at some point in time here in the near future. But as long as Will does Will things on track, I don't foresee there being any issue with him staying in that car. You know what, y'all? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a fun one from Chris Wright. 7, 8. Enough questions left that this is going to be a 2-hour episode if I grab them all. So let me do this. I want to go ahead and wrap up. Say huge thanks to y'all for everything you sent in. After I get a little bit more sleep, maybe, and I'm a little bit more lucid, why don't I try and look at doing like a Friday short show, just catch up on some of the really good ones that y'all sent in, Cody Oakwood, Ed Joris, and so on. Get to those. Jake Henneke, I apologize, Eric Franklin. Try and get to that on Friday probably. And if any of y'all want to send in a couple more, go ahead and do that. And try and do a much shorter show, but get to those because I do appreciate everything you take time to send in. And I hate when I don't get to all of them. And I just don't know if I can go much longer here without falling asleep because my brain is shutting off. So why don't we plan on doing that for, say, Friday? Once again, thanks to y'all for everything you did fire in, to our pals at the Justice Brothers, TorontoMotorsports.com, the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin, and also our own ThePruittStore.com. I'll speak to y'all here shortly.